Okay, today live review Woodford Reserve, double oaked Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey from the Woodford Reserve Distillery. This is a Brown Forman product, um, which, if you don't know, that's Jack Daniels. 45.2% ABV, 90.4 proof. This is chill filtered, and obviously, since it's Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey, it is natural color. The mash bill for this one: 72% corn, 18% rye, 10% malted barley. And there's also a couple other little tidbits about Woodford Reserve, not just the double oaked, but all Woodford Reserves do a 1 week fermentation. Um, they are triple distilled, and they also use column or pot stills at Woodford. There's no column stills like you do with most bourbon whiskey. Um, Now, Woodford Reserve, your Buck Standard Woodford, is roughly 7 years in new charred oak barrels. The difference between your typical distiller's select and your double oaked is after that 7 years new charred oak, the Woodford double oak does another 1 year finish in a new charred oak barrel, but this one's a little different. It's instead of a number four char like most bourbon whiskeys do, your finishing barrel for Woodford Reserve Double Oaked is actually a 4 times toast. So that's a super toasted barrel. And then they char it for like 5 seconds. So it's very lightly charred, very heavily toasted, and a 1 year in that. So that's the difference between your double oaked and your distiller's select. Um, and again, we're going to review this out of 100, 25 for aroma, 25 for palate, 25 for finish, 10 for texture, and 15 for my personal experience. Get that spinning. That's the light. You can have a light too. All right, so there's your natural color. I guess this is an 8 year old roughly. And again, we say it's 7 years in new charred oak, but there's no hard fast rule. There's no age statement on Distiller Select or the double oaked. But this is kind of roughly when you go to the distillery and take the tour, they'll say it takes about 7 years for the barrels to reach maturity such that they use them in the distiller's select. But some of them are going to be younger, some of them are going to be older. It kind of just depends on how that particular barrel kind of got by. And we see like this one where it has the, again, additional 1 year finish in a brand new heavily toasted barrel. It's quite dark. It's quite thick in that dark color. So some extra coloration from that double oaked finish. All right. So as we kind of tend to get out of this one, I don't know if they use the same yeast strain for the Woodford Reserve as they do for Jack Daniels, but I usually get a very similar banana component to this whiskey in the same way that I get on Jack Daniels. Of course, this doesn't have the charcoal filtering kind of thing going on with it, but I'm not sure if maybe they use the same yeast and it ends up with the same kind of like fruity elements after fermentation, or not. But I always kind of get a very similar banana candy note out of this one. So we'll see if we're hitting exactly like that today. And of course, this is going to be all the sweet notes. Again, it's a toasted barrel, so we might get something like marshmallow in there. And again, to be clear, like a toasted barrel is when they actually just heat the barrel such that the particles in the wood are easily available to be accessed, which is different than when they char the barrel and put the black coating on the inside. It's not quite the same process. It's been a long time since I had some American whiskey. I think the last time we did, I think we did Blanton's. I think that was over a week ago. And before that, it was like, I think even longer. Of course, the situations in the world that we're in right now have caused this to be true, but I'm not getting that banana really, but I'm just getting like some cocoa, like chocolate covered cherry, a slight butteriness. And the sweetness is kind of low and thick, like a dark toffee or molasses right now. But we tend to see that pick up a little bit. And again, it's just my personal subjective, like an anecdotal experience. But for me, the sweetness in whiskeys always picks up, like in the second inning or second half of the game, we'll say. Yeah, I'm getting like a good chocolate hit, and to me, there's like a slight cherry, and they're kind of very close together. So like, to me, it's like chocolate covered cherry, but you could go in other places like cherry cola or something like that. I'm not really getting like that banana, and I do remember, I think when we fresh cracked this one on the neck pour, I got a little bit of banana, but it's not hitting for me today. Still pretty sweet, pretty thick in terms of its aromas. So, Woodford double oaked on the palate. Cheers. Man, this is greeting me a little bit different than I remember, but that's okay. That's not bad. So right on the attack here, I'm getting like cinnamon spice, like, and that's kind of like not normally where I get it, but cinnamon spice, some of that we'll say like chocolate covered cherry, some buttery character. It's kind of like pretty close to what you get on the aroma, kind of right up front of the palate for me. Finish is like maybe medium minus. Seems like roughly similar notes, but there's a little like an oakiness to the finish. That's the one thing I'll say, like right up front, is this doesn't appear to me like, despite the name being Woodford, it's not super woody. It's not super oaky. There is a spice component, but it doesn't bite. For me, it's definitely like a cherry fruit with some dark sweetnesses. I'm kind of like getting hit with that syrup now. What the heck is that on there? Something stuck on there. There's like a syrupiness, a dark toffee, molasses, this kind of idea. Very heavy on the sweetnesses. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's the wrong thingamajig. Keep hitting the wrong switch. What the hell? Oh, it's all the way over here. There's like something on this and it's bothering me. Not really sure what that is. There we go. But yeah, the woody component on the aroma is very low. Great flavor profile. Again, slight cherry fruit aspects, slight butteriness, and then all the dark sweetnesses. Again, like molasses, chocolate, syrup. You definitely pick up that triple distillation on the mouthfeel. Very silky on the palate. Finish kind of like has a spice hit, some more of that sweetness, a little bit of oak at the end. It's not the longest finish. Medium minus, I think, is fair. But again, there's no like. Sometimes in bourbon, you get like a very, some very biting characteristics. You get a bite of spice, back palate, early finish. You get a bite of oakiness. Anywhere on the senses, aroma, palate, finish. Sometimes it can be challenging. That bite of oak or spice. This kind of doesn't really have any of those kind of biting components. It's like mostly all in the sweetnesses, slight fruit character. Again, the triple distillation is very obvious on the palate for me, very, very smooth on the mouthfeel. Again, for me, I can always kind of tell something's triple distilled. It's just got a good silk to it. That being said, is not really like doing anything like wild or giving us any kind of complex aromas or anything. Still very sweet and very drinkable. Great experience on the palate. No sharp edges. Mostly the sweetnesses. You do get some oaks and spices, but they're not sharp. I'm particularly enjoying how the cherry is kind of hitting today, because I don't always get a cherry on this bottle. But right now it's hitting in a good place, like chocolate covered cherry or like cherry cola. But it's all also like that's on top of like the bed of like syrup kind of thing at the bottom. And some of that like more buttery character at the top. Like if you wanted to go with like buttered pancakes with like chocolate covered cherries on the side, you'd be right in the good place with the aroma. Again, that cinnamon spice, syrup sweetness, slight butteriness on the palate. You get more of that spice near the end of the palate and into the finish, where that kind of like oakiness comes in, but it's not like overbearing. It's kind of like medium level, definitely detectable, but not strong erming notes out of the way or creating a spike in flavor in terms of like challenging your palate at all. So, talk about some numbers. Overall, pretty tasty, not that complicated. So I'll focus on the aroma out of 25. Again, a good set of notes. Kind of get the same thing every time we go in. We kind of can expect with complete consistency what the aroma is. Nothing kind of weird is poking out of here. Good intensity, but nothing adventurous. 16. All right, I'll focus on the palate. What you get, I think, is similar. You kind of expect the flavors you're going to get. Good intensity, nothing adventurous. A couple proof points could help a little bit. It is like a little bit really honing in on it. The strength and intensity of the notes on the palate could use a little bit of work. Look at the palate. 50. Now I'll focus on the finish, which is again about medium in intensity. You get kind of like, again, that little bit of a spike in spice. You still have that sweet, kind of syrupy flavor. And then you kind of introduce the oak, and that lingers for a little while, but nothing, again, nothing challenging. Finish will go 14. I'm going to talk about texture at a 10. Again, this is triple distilled. You can kind of tell on the palate. It's good mouthfeel, despite it being a little bit watered down. Woodford Reserve, double oaked, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. She's not going to want this. Although, you might like this one, but I always say that. This one is not as bitey as most bourbons are. Well, this is a really smooth one.
Pudding looks like cake batter.
It does look like cake. That's because I think I have hair on my ID, don't I?
Yeah, and your face is real fat.
Wow.
Not now, in the
When when
picture.
when was that photo taken?
Uh, it expires next year, so probably like 2021,
I don't
2022.
think I would have lost weight in the past 4 years, but maybe.
I don't know, maybe it's just the way the picture is. If you look at your face, you're like,
My wife says I'm fat in my ID picture.
feels very brown chicken. Not as bad as the other ones.
It's not as bad as the other ones.
It's really like brown sugar and coffee.
Yeah, it's all the sweetnesses and none of the harsh parts. Yeah, savage. Yeah. Well, the reason I think the reason she's bringing it up is because like she was looking at her own ID, and she's been like losing weight, right? So like her ID from her ID picture, she looks like she's been stung by a bunch of bees compared to what she looks now. What? Isn't that true? Your face looks bloated in your ID.
It's true, but you could have said it a little nicer.
I thought it was a good description. Hope you like the coach. Oh, Ben, no, if only you knew. You have to remember that, like, I don't sleep at the same time as her. So, it doesn't really, like, there's not much, the contest doesn't really work. 23, 20, they don't make you retake it? The only time they didn't make us retake ID pictures here was when it was COVID. You have to retake it every time you get a new ID here. Alright, we'll talk about the texture. Pretty good, but not crazy. I'll give it a 6. Now, out of 15, my personal experience with the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, which again I think it's pretty good, great flavor profile. It's quite tasty, quite approachable. Nothing challenging here, but again, for the same reasons that sometimes whiskeys aren't our favorite, nothing challenging here. I do like to be challenged, so I went to a challenge with this particular bourbon. That being said, it does kind of stand out, and I think almost among anyone who drinks bourbon, the Woodford Double Oaked somewhat stands out as some kind of like staple of smooth and sweet, neat sippable bourbon. It's kind of like stood out in that way. I think almost everyone would kind of sort of agree in that. It's nothing insane, but it tastes good, great flavor profile, great neat, and noted in that way. But doesn't do anything wild or stand out any other way other than it's kind of like a good price, good value, good pour. 8 out of 15. We'll call it 8. It stands out, man. It does. This one does stand out. One of those best bang for your buck bourbons, probably I would agree. But the calculator says 16 and 15 and 14 and 6 and 8 is 59. 59 out of 100, which we call good. It's good. It's right there in the middle of the good realm here. It's good.